Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. My name is Gila Schusterman, and I am the Project Director for the OPA Adolescent Health Performance Measures Project at WRMA. We're here to help you in collecting and submitting your required performance measures data to OPA. This is a refresher of all the data entry processes for TPP 23 grantees and steps you can take to ensure that you submit all your performance data successfully. I want to go over some quick logistics. This webinar is being recorded so we can make the transcript and recording available for later viewing. By default, all participants are muted, but it's a good idea to confirm that you're also muted on your own device. We'll take questions at the end, but if you think of something in the middle of the webinar, feel free to type in the questions box anytime, and we'll answer them at the end of the presentation. If you have any technical difficulties, just send us a message in the questions box and one of us will try to assist you. Those messages just come through to our staff and the rest of the participants won't see them. I'm now going to turn this over to Tara Rice from OPA, who will give an introduction.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tara Rice from the Office of Population Affairs, Division of Research and Evaluation. Welcome to the 2026 Teen Pregnancy Prevention Grantee Refresher webinar on reporting performance measures. Today, the TPP Performance Measure Support Team will review what you need to know to access the system, report, and view data. This webinar is open to all TPP grantees. Note that the second half of the presentation will focus on common issues related to Tier 1 and Tier 2 rigorous impact grantee reporting. If you are a Tier 2 HUBS grantee, you may want to drop off a bit early. As you listen to today's presentation, consider some best practices for your data submission. Please access the performance measure system early, before the reporting deadline, to confirm access and troubleshoot issues. Please make sure you submit complete information for your project. Please make sure your performance measures data are consistent with your semi-annual report narrative. Use the system reports and dashboards to review your data for accuracy and completeness. Use your semi-annual progress report narrative to describe any challenges. Please review the performance measures definition and guidance document on Connect and make sure that you are answering items as originally intended. I will now hand the webinar back over to the TPP Performance Measure Support Team. Thank you.
I'd now like to introduce our technical assistance team for this project. As I mentioned, I'm the project director and will be providing some of the content for the webinar today. You'll also be hearing today from Kelly Kerstetter and Imogene Fua, who are members of our TA support team. And I just want to also introduce Haroon Rashid, another member of our team who also works with the help desk and may be responding to your TA requests. And finally, Sunil Leelaram, who is our senior technical advisor, and he helps with some of the technology and system development behind the scenes. Here is our agenda for today. First, we have a quick overview of TPP performance measures, who needs to report what and when. We will review how to access your ohpmdata.net account in case you are a new user or will need to create new users for your grantee. We'll go over some of the website features to make sure you're aware of all the resources that are available for you there. We will then go over grantee data submission, what you need to submit if you're a Tier 1, a Tier 2 rigorous impact, or a Tier 2 HUBS grantee. And then we'll talk about section data submission. And as Tara mentioned, if you are a Tier 2 HUB grantee, you could drop off at this point since you won't need to worry about section data and we don't have dashboards or reports set up for you yet. If you do want to drop off early and have questions that we didn't cover, feel free to send us an email afterward and we can help you. For Tier 2 rigorous impact grantees and Tier 1 grantees, we will then talk about section data and we'll open up the website and walk through the different steps for your data submission and the options that you have. And we will also review some data collection tools that are available for you. And then we will look at the reports and dashboards that you can use both to confirm that you've entered all your data correctly and completely, and also for other purposes for your grant, such as for continuous quality improvement. Then at the end, we'll save some time for questions. So just some performance measures basics. You will need to submit data twice a year into the ohpmdata.net system, which is kind of a mouthful, so I will be just referring to this today as the system or the website. Tier 1 and Tier 2 grantees are on slightly different schedules, so this shows the reporting periods for each tier. The most important thing to note here is that Tier 1 grantees have a deadline coming up on January 30th for performance measures from the first part of the grant year, July 1st to December 31st of 2025. Tier 2 grantees will next need to report by March 30th, reporting for performance measures for the first part of your grant year, September 1st, 2025 through February 28th of 2026. And then just to remind ourselves quickly, we have the grantee level performance measures and grantee level performance measures and organization level performance measures. Grantee level performance measures are reported by all grantees and are the same for Tier 1 and Tier 2 RI grantees and are slightly different for Tier 2 HUBS grantees. These include measures such as sustainability, training, partners, grantee level fidelity, dissemination. And then for HUBS grantees, you also have information about your prototypes and innovation development. These are reported twice a year, covering the previous semi-annual period. Organization level measures are reported by Tier 1 and Tier 2 RI grantees, and these include section level performance measures such as reach, dosage, section level fidelity and quality. And then Tier 1 grantees only also need to report on referrals to supportive services at the organization level. Organization level measures also have submission deadlines twice a year. Supportive services are entered just like grantee data covering the previous semi-annual period. But section data can be entered anytime throughout the year. Whenever a section is completed, we encourage you to enter in the data for that completed section. And prior to the submission deadline twice a year, make sure that you've entered all the sections that have been completed since the last submission. You can go back and make corrections to these sections anytime throughout the year if you realize that something wasn't entered right. While OPA does review the section data submitted mid-year, we're mainly interested in section data on an annual basis. I will now turn it over to Kelly Kerstetter, who will talk about setting up your accounts.
Thanks, Gila. Grantee users are responsible for maintaining and updating their implementing organizations. So if you're creating an implementing organization user, they will only have access to the organizations you give them access to, and they will only be able to enter section level data. You won't be able to do anything with the grantee level data. If you don't need that kind of granularity in your users, then you don't need to worry about that. You can have a couple of grantee administrators handle all your data, but if in your organization you have, say, one person responsible for entering these 10 sections and someone else entering a different 10 sections, then you can create those users and assign them their particular organizations to help keep that organized. For grantee users, you will need to request access. When you first do that, either the grantee user or your program director requests access on your behalf, and in that request, please include the things noted on this slide: grantee number, the name of the new user, their email and phone number, and we will set up an online profile for you. The new user will receive a system-generated email stating that your account has been created and we'd like you to log in and set a new password. Please make sure that you click the link within that email within 24 hours in order to make sure your password can be changed and updated. If you don't, we'll ask that you go ahead and go to the website login page itself using the forgot password function to enter your email address, and it should send you another email with a link in it that will be valid again for just 24 hours. After that, those links expire and you'll need to send a new forgot password. Of course, if you have any questions or issues with that process, if you never get an email in the first place, or you believe that the forgot password link isn't working, just contact the help desk. It's support@ohpmdata.net, and we'd be happy to help you work through all of these issues. Once you're logged in, it will ask you to establish your multi-factor authentication method. You can do this using a mobile device or a browser extension. We have a tip sheet that outlines either of these options. It's available in the handouts pod in your control panel for this webinar, and we do send that out when we set up your new account as well. If you ever need to reset your MFA, for example, if you get a new phone, you can find that in the resources section of the website, or you can email us at support@oahpmdata.net and we can help you with that. Next slide. All right, so that takes us to website features. When you first log into oahpmdata.net, there is a green toolbar at the top, which will help navigate between sections of the website. The first one is home. That will always take you back to the home screen or welcome screen. Grantees, this is only for grantee admin users. They're the only ones that would see and be able to access this page. The grantee page is the main page for grantees to manage their information and enter grantee level data. Organizations page is available to all grantee admin and organization users. The organizations page allows users to enter section data and supportive services referrals for each implementing organization associated with their grantee. Under resources, you'll find that the system hosts resource files. These might be user guides, information memoranda, reporting tools, and those are available for download by all users. Some of the things you might see: user guides, tip sheets, the section data attendance tracker, and section upload template. The system also allows users to download submitted grantee and section data. So if you select the extracts drop-down, it downloads a zip file containing data files of submitted data. The system also allows users to upload data for multiple sections in one or more CSV files. Rather than entering that data manually on the section data page, you can use one of the import tools to upload those a little more easily. Reports. Only grantee admins can access the reports page. Reports allows users to view summary reports of the data entered for their associated grantees and organizations. Dashboards. This section enables users to explore visual summaries of insights and trends from the section and grantee level data in a more easy to read format. And tutorials. This is available for all users. The tutorials link sends users to a playlist of tutorials that are available on our YouTube channel. Later, we will review the tabs related to data submission. For now, let's take a look at resources and tutorials. You can see from the resources page, as we had mentioned, this is where you would find the resource files, including user guide, upload template, and attendance tracker, and any tip sheets that are available. As you can see, the resources are organized by category to make it a little easier to find what you're looking for. Next slide. Here we see the first collection of resources, and again, if you select the drop-down, you will be able to select a different collection. Next slide. And here we have the tip sheets that are available. Again, all users have access to the resources. Under tutorials, that final tab on the navigation bar, that brings us right to the playlist that we have on YouTube. It contains recordings of our previous webinars, as well as several tutorial videos that walk you through how to upload things or save section data, getting ready for the section data entry.
Okay, we're now going to turn it over to Imogene, who will talk about the grantee level data submission.
Okay, thank you, Keela and Kelly. Can you see my screen? I think so. Okay, so hi everyone. I am going to go through the Manage Grantees page where you will submit your grantee level data. So only grantee admin users can access this page. So those of you who are grantee admin users, this is the part of the system that you'll be responsible for. Okay, so the grantees page is accessed by clicking on the grantees link here in the navigation bar. this page allows grantee users to edit their grantee contact information, manage their implementing organizations and the users, and of course, entering and submit grantee level data. For this part of the presentation, I will only be going through how to enter and submit grantee data. So upon clicking on the grantee link, you will be brought to the Manage Grantees page, which generally looks like this. As a grantee user, you will see a list of all the grantees that are associated with you. And then the buttons on the left are your navigation buttons. The edit button is where you can edit your grantee information. The organizations button is where you enter your implementation or implementing organizations. And then I will be focusing on the data button, as this is where you will enter your grantee data. Okay, so you saw this slide earlier with Gila explaining your performance measures. These are the performance measures that we will be focusing on for the grantee pages. When you click on the data button, as I showed you in the previous slide, the system will automatically bring you to the page you need to enter data for. So either Tier 1 and Tier 2 RI or Tier 2 Hub, you don't have to indicate which type of grantee you are. Okay, so this is the first page you'll see. You'll see your grantee name at the top. Next, you'll want to choose the reporting period you're entering for, data for. And then finally, these are the tabs are where you will be entering your data. And we'll go through each one. So this is an example of a Tier 1 and Tier 2 RI page, but Hubs will also see the same, but your data entry tabs will be different. So now at the bottom of each tab, you'll see a save button. Click on that save button and you will have submitted the data you entered. You're able to go back and edit that data and then click save again to resubmit the corrected data. Of course, all of this before the deadline. So let's start with the Tier 1 and Tier 2 RI data entry tabs. The first tab is the sustainability data, which looks for 4 questions. The first question asks you for the number of partners you have at the end of each 6-month reporting period. So you will be entering this data twice a year. So let's start with the Tier 1 and Tier 2 RI data entry tabs. The first tab is for sustainability data, which asks 4 questions. The first question asks you for the number of partners you have at the end of each 6-month reporting period. So you will be entering this data twice a year. The next 3 questions you will answer at the end of the funding year. Question 2 asks how many partners you have that have firm plans to continue project activities after the end of funding. And then the next 2 questions are about the funding that you have secured beyond the grant funding. Next is the fidelity and training tab, which consists of 5 questions. The first question is your overall score on the TPP fidelity. So click. So your TPP fidelity score comes from a form that your grantee project directors complete. And I'll show you this form on the next slide. The rest of the questions are training questions that have to do with a number of TPP program trainings and attendees you've conducted on specific topics such as professional development and technical assistance. So here's the fidelity process form that your project director will need to complete to answer the fidelity question that I showed you before. This is the only form that you will need to complete for entering grantee data. You can download this form from the resources tab that Kelly showed you earlier within the performance measures. So this form is used to score your program intervention and any ongoing fidelity management. It's 13 questions. Of course, I wasn't able to put all questions on the slide, but questions have to do with training and your fidelity monitoring plan. As you can see, They all have the same response options. Each response option is scored with a 0, a 1, or 2. So you'll assign the scores and then add them up. And the sum of the scores will be what you enter in the fidelity question. This maximum score is 26. And then the next tab is for tracking your stakeholder engagement. So when we talk about stakeholder engagement, we mean an individual who is involved in providing any input to the project's implementation. They can serve on an advisory board, help plan their recruitment strategy, or participate in your continuous improvement processes, and other examples. So only include individuals who gave input or feedback into the implementation of the project. Now, just to differentiate, the participants who are served by the TPP program are not reported in the stakeholder engagement. Those participants are reported under REACH in the section data. So participants in the program do not count as engagement stakeholders. Okay. This tab does ask you to separate these individuals by who they are as listed here on the screen. Lastly, the dissemination tab asks about your channels of communications that your organization may have to disseminate information about your program. Again, I couldn't fit all the questions on the slide, but some of the channels of communications are published manuscripts, newspaper articles, blogs, websites, and social media, and then also conference or event presentations. For manuscripts, you are asked for any references or citations. Now, for social media, say that you maintain an Instagram page that you post on a monthly basis. You will only count that Instagram page as one channel of communication and not the number of times you posted on that Instagram page. So only count each medium or app and not the number of posts. So now moving on to the Hub grantees. Your first tab is on prototypes. How many prototypes were developed and tested by your innovation development team? And then the second question is how many targeted the end users that are listed here. Next, the engagement tab asks 2 questions about who and how many end users were engaged for research, development, and testing by your innovation development team. So the first question is for youth only, and the second one asks about all end users, including your youth. So the next tab is where we ask about your innovation development teams. The first question asks how many teams did your sub support? So you can have various innovation development teams. The second question asks how many team members and innovations come from this list of sources. And then the training and partners tab asks 3 questions. The first 2 ask about trainings, how many trainings were provided, and then how many individuals received that training. And then the last question asks about your partners. How many were involved in implementing and evaluating the project? And then the last tab for the hubs is the dissemination tab. It asks how many manuscripts were accepted for publication. And again, you're asked to provide any citations. And then the second question is how many major national or regional conferences did you present at? And it also asks for citations. Okay, so that's it for grantee data. We are happy to answer any questions that you have at the Q&A at the end. So I'm going to hand it over now to Gila to talk about your section data.
So first, we're going to talk about setting up the implementing organization where your sections were being implemented. And we're going to talk about two options for entering your section data, which are the manual data entry and uploading your files using the import function. And we will talk about some tools you can use to help you with your section data entry. And then we are now going to go over to the live website and show you how you can do each of these things. So as I mentioned, there's two ways to enter your section, to submit your section data. We do have a tip sheet that will help you to decide which of these processes is right for you. It's located in the resources tab, and it's also attached for you as a handout for this webinar. So before you can submit your section data, no matter how you're going to do it, the first thing you need to do is set up the implementing organizations for your grantee. You would be at the grantee tab. I've logged in here as a sample grantee. So we're going to go to the grantee tab. And for this grantee, we would then go to the organization button. And we already have two organizations created for this grantee. But let's say we have a new implementing organization that has just started working and has some sections that they need to enter. So we need to now add an implementing organization. So we're going to click on this button. We enter the name of our implementing organization. And we don't really need to enter anything else. We could put some primary contact information, but that isn't required. So we're going to just save this. And we will we're also going to enter another organization 3. We're going to need that later. So we will add these two. For organization, so we've got organization 2 added. And then we also now need to assign program models for our organization. So that way, when we add a new section, they know which programs that they can pick from for their section. So for this program, for this organization, we are going to look through the list here, and we are selecting something called Program Model 1. We are adding that for our organization. Okay, so now that we have set up our implementing organizations, we're ready to add our section data. So if you're a grantee level user, you could be doing that right from this screen. You would go to the sections button here for your organization, click on that, select your program model, and then you can then add a section with this add section button. If you're an organization level user, you wouldn't have access to this grantee tab. So you would click over, you would be starting from the organizations tab. And if you're a grantee user, you can also start at this tab. It doesn't make a difference, but you would then have your grantee, select that, and it will show the organizations. If you're associated with only one organization, you might only see yours, and then you would click on the sections button, and then you have the same thing. So you've got the program model, and then you can now add your section. You want to first, actually, before I just go back, make sure that you are in the right reporting period before you add your section. So this is the one we want. We're going to add our section. All right, and we're going to call our section Eastern High School Spring Wednesday afternoon. That's when your section meets. It's at this particular school. This section is in, say, Delaware, in school setting, in an urban environment. And then we save our section. And now we have the section saved. So we now would be ready right here to start entering our sections using the manual data entry screens. But let's just pause for a minute and talk about how you'll be collecting these data in order to have them available to enter. So this is really up to you and your program. You can create any kind of form or process to collect the data you need for these performance measures. But we have provided for you something we call the section data tracker, which could be useful because it will gather the data already into a format that makes it easy for you to submit. So you should see this Excel file here. This is what we call the section data tracker. And again, this is completely optional. You don't need to submit this form to us or to anyone, but it's really just to help things make it a little easier for you. Here we go. You can scroll through the just go through quickly. You would enter the name of your participant or an ID. And again, you can put the names because you're not submitting this file to us. Whether they are a youth or caregiver or youth serving professional, there are drop downs here for race and ethnicity, for sex, age, grade. You would just select, their characteristics, and then you can fill in. This was already filled in. You could then fill in their attendance information. So we'll just kind of pick a couple here. See how this works as you enter your data. So, and then we see that we've entered their attendance. You either yes or no, that they've attended. Okay, and then we also have an observation tab where you can put in the observation data. You need to observe a certain percentage of your sessions, so you can list the sessions that you observed, which session it was, fill in the quality scores that you observed, and then the activities planned and completed, and then that will calculate your adherence score. So then when you go over to these green tabs, they will then summarize for you the data that you have entered into a format that will make it easy for you to enter. I have another version of this tracker where data has been entered, so this makes it a little bit easier to see how this looks. So you've got now we've entered several participants, several observations, and now we can see these green tabs have calculated for us the dosage, the reach, the fidelity. Now we'll go back to the website and we'll talk about where we will need to enter those data. Okay, so if we were going to enter this, like for example, the sample data that we were just looking at, we can see how this is going to work. We have 7 participants. We have 3 males and 4 females. We have, we'll fill in some kind of quick data here. We have 2 here, 3 here, and 4 here. That's not right. Okay, we did some math wrong. So we see that this total did not add up to the same as the number of our participants. So we're going to see what happens when we do that. We have 3 here and 4 here. We're going to say they're all in 9th grade just to make this quick. And then we try to save. If we save, we get several errors on the top here. First of all, we see that our sum of reach by race should be equal to total reach. And it does not, because we entered the wrong number here. As it turns out, this should only be 2. So we can correct that, and now that error will go away. However, so that error went away. We still see these errors, and what that means is that we have not entered the data for these other tabs. The way this section data entry tabs work is you do need to enter all of the tabs before it will save. And we've definitely gotten some questions about this. So you need to gather all this information to have for your full section before you sit down to enter these data, because it won't save otherwise. So that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, so let's talk about another way that you can enter your section data. If you have a large number of sections, or it'd be very time consuming to enter your data, or I guess if you're in a situation where you're gathering the data in different pieces and you want to be able to sort of fill it all in as you go, you can use the upload option. You would be doing that over on this imports tab. So in order to use the imports tab, you would need to use the section data upload template to structure your data and save it as a CSV file. I will show you what that looks like. Section data upload template is over here. And this is just a single, the file just has a single row of headings, and then you would fill in your sections below each of those headings. And then you can fill in data for as many sections as you want. So now I also want to say something about the section data tracker that we looked at earlier. We are in the process of updating this tool so that it has an additional tab where it pulls the data into the structure that you need to paste it into the section data upload template. We had completed this new version in December, and we added it to the website, and then we subsequently discovered that there were some errors, so we took it down a few days ago. We're working to fix this and test these links, and we should have this new version for you up by next week. So if you did download this form and use it, please get in touch with us if you have questions. Most of the data that you have in there should be fine, but if there were recipients that were caregivers or youth serving professionals, some of those links weren't working correctly. So we can help you sort that out. But in the meantime, even though this form isn't quite ready yet, I do want to show you what oh, that's the wrong one. I'm going to show you what it looks like. And how it will allow you to use it for the upload in addition to the manual data entry. And this is completed already. We've got some data filled out for attendance, for observations. You've got the tabs for the manual data entry. And then you also have a tab which is called the upload template. So it's going to now pull all the data into this one row structure so that you can then just take this row and paste it over into your upload template. And then if you do this for each of your sections, you can compile all that together and upload it all at once. So I want to just explain one other feature about this new version is that it also has another tab called Section Info. As I mentioned, this tracker is not something you need to submit to us. This is really for your own record keeping. And the previous version did not have any place on the tracker to write down the name of the section or the grantee information. But we do need that information to go into the upload template. So we have created a place for you to add that in. And these are drop downs. You can pick the name of your grantee, and then it will fill in you put in the grantee number, it will fill in the name, and then you fill in the name of your organization, program model, section name, and then this other information. And then all of that will then also populate over into the upload template tab. So Okay, and then one other small change that we made in this new version is that we separated the reach tabs. So we have a tab for youth participant reach, and then we have a separate tab for caregivers and professionals reach. Those had been on the same tab before, but in the website, they're actually on two different tabs. So we separated those. Okay, so we will now go back over to the website and show you how you will be uploading these. We open up our import data tab and we have this option for uploading our file. So we click on upload. That will tell us, that will give us an option to pick the file that we want to upload. So we pick our file. And we want to make sure we have the right reporting period. And we select upload and see what happens. Okay, so that worked. So we have now entered a bunch of sections. So what I wanted to show you is that if you enter your data with the upload, you can also go back and see the data that you entered in the manual data entry screens. So just to kind of give you an idea, so this is the file that we uploaded. This is an upload template with a bunch of data entered. We've got our grantee here. We've got some are for organization 2, some sections are for organization 4. They're all using program model 1, and then we've got these different numbers of sections. So just for an example, we want to open up section 12 over in our other screens, and we should be able to see that data there as well. So for organization 2, we're looking at our sections. We've got all of these. Yes, and we're going to come back to our section that we created before, but we see section 12 is here, and that has all the data that was in the spreadsheet, and it's all been entered here. So if we have a correction we want to make that didn't get like just for one of the sections, say you were to enter a bunch of sections all at once, and then you realize you just need to make one small correction to one of the sections, you can go in and correct it this way, just using the manual data entry screens. You don't have to go back and upload everything over again. So that's that can be useful. Okay, so so if you're interested in trying out the upload function and you haven't done that before, I definitely recommend watching our tutorial video on how to upload section data. You can find that in the tutorials tab. And we also have a tip sheet on data validation errors that you might encounter when importing your section data. These will both be very helpful. Before I forget, I was almost going to forget this. The other aspect of data submission that I don't want to forget is you also have supportive services data. This is just for Tier 1 grantees, and this is, whoops, this is over here in the on the organization tab. Just thinking. Okay, so for our organization 2, we would click over here for supportive services. And this is only one screen. You have semi-annual periods here that you're picking from. So you got to make sure you have that right. And then you would just fill in the number of referrals that your program has made to any of these different supportive services for your recipients. Okay. All right. So now back to, as we were going to talk about reports and dashboards. So there are a number of ways that you can use the reports and dashboards. One of the ways is to actually just confirm that you've entered your data correctly. And then you also may want to use these for your continuous quality improvement efforts, such as identifying any issues and testing some potential solutions to improve your program. You can look at maybe differences in how or with whom the program is implemented in different settings, in such as maybe in school versus out of school settings, or in rural, urban, and suburban environments. You also might want to use the data in the dashboards and the reports for presenting to your external partners, parents, other community members. They're really helpful for summarizing how many participants you've worked with and their demographics, and also they help you to look at changes over time. Okay, so we'll go back to the website and we will look at those. Okay, so first for reports, we'll look at the grantee report first. So for our grantee that we've been working with today, the grantee report basically is just one report that pulls all of the grantee data onto a single line. It's not super fun to look at, but it does have everything here. And what this will show you is, so we've got some data entered for this grantee for this particular period, but we can notice here by looking through here that we don't have any dissemination data. So unlike section data, you can enter the separate tabs separately and you can save them, but we may have forgotten to enter our dissemination data. So by looking at this report, that will remind you that you need to go back and do that. You've got data for all the other pieces. You've got stakeholders and engagement and partnerships and everything else here, but we don't have the dissemination entered. So that's something that grantee report can be useful for. We also have reports at the section level. A good one to start with is the dosage report, because this one shows individual sections. So here's what the dosage report looks like. We've got our example grantee, and the default is that it will show all of the organizations and all the program models. But you could, if you wanted, select just one of those. For example, organization 2. And every time you make changes up at the top here, you would need to press the filter button, and then it will just limit the report to only what you're interested in. So one of the things that we would notice here right away is that this section that we created earlier, we never actually entered any data for it. As you remember, we started entering data and then we got those errors and then we just kind of moved on to something else. So this section is still sitting in there without any data. There are no participants. So that can remain there. I mean, the system will tolerate that, but we don't really want to see sections without participants, because that's not a thing. So if you see this in your report, you would want to go back into your into that section and complete the filling out the data for it. Or if you decide you don't really need that section, there's an option to just delete the section if you go into that edit section tab, and then you can just delete the section if you don't need it. But this report will remind you that that section is sitting there without data. Okay, so that's another thing you can do with this report, just to show you if you do have multiple organizations and you want to look at them all on one report. There are a couple ways you can actually structure this report so it's a little more useful. You could you could either sort it by implementing organization. So then you just make sure that you've got all the organization 2 together and then 4. And this is going to go on for a couple more pages. Or you can another thing you can do is you can click on this little header and move it up here, and then it will group these organizations for you and also give you a summary. So all of the participants for organization 2, you've got all those sections together, all the participants for organization 4, and you got those sections together. So that is helpful. I think we do have one other organization here, other organizations, but they don't seem to have any sections. So there's nothing here for those. So, okay. So there are several other reports to look at. The adherence and quality report is also grouped by section. Show what that one looks like. That gives you the adherence and quality data, also grouped by section. And then the REACH reports are not grouped by section. Those are actually grouped by program model. So we only have the one program model in here for now with the section. And then you have several options here. The different demographics are on different reports. So you've got sex on one report, age is on a different report, and then you would have to hit the filter button to get this to then change to age. And then you've also got grade and race and ethnicity. Okay, so let's look at the dashboards for a minute. The dashboards will give you some nice visualizations of the data that you and some of your audiences may find useful. We're going to take a look at our example grantee. So there's one overall dashboard, and then you make your selections for the grantee and reporting periods that you want to see, and then you select filter. And then the 3 tabs on the dashboard will provide different visualizations of the data for the grantee for those periods. You have the grantee level data, reach and dosage, and then fidelity and quality. The default is bringing you to the current period, but you could also look at several periods at a time. Right now, we'll just look at this one. So for each tab, you have these cards at the top, which give you some summary data that are combined for all the periods that you've selected. And so this is now showing the full year. And then you have some graphs that provide more details on specific performance measures, as well as some trends. If we were to select more than one reporting period, you would see those trends have more to look at for those trends. So we can add a couple more reporting periods and then select filter for them to show up. And now these numbers have gotten bigger because it's showing all those reporting periods. And now you have some additional numbers here for the trends. Okay, so whatever you have selected here will carry over to the reach and dosage tabs and the fidelity and quality tabs. So now this is now summarizing 2 years of data for reach and dosage as well. Now, something I need to explain about the dashboards. As we know, section data is collected on an annual basis, not a semi-annual basis like grantee data. But in order for these dashboards to show both types of data together, we had to standardize the reporting periods. So the data for the section data is showing up as being in 2 semi-annual periods. It isn't, but you need to understand that it isn't actually, here I'm going to show you just the full year here. It isn't actually divided. There really isn't data divided for the first and second part of the year. it actually is just showing you the same number, regardless of if you select both parts of the year for both semi-annual periods for the year or just one of them. That was just a limitation of the technology. Hopefully that isn't too confusing. So just quickly, you can see we've got 3,600 participants when we select the two semi-annual periods together. If we were to just select one of them, we would see the same number. It's just taking a minute. Yeah, so this is actually just showing you the same thing. But for grantee data, you would see something different. So we've got 6 formal partners for one half of the year. And then if we add the other half back in, it will show you those 2 periods combined. So feel free to ask questions if that wasn't clear. Okay, so for section data, we have, as I mentioned, we've got reach and dosage. On one tab, you can see the main numbers up here on these cards, and then more specifics in these graphs. And we've just got 1 year right now, so there aren't any trends showing. If we wanted to add those in, we could see some trends. So yeah, so that shows the trends. Okay, and then we also have a, so this is the demographics, the different characteristics, and you've got the settings and urbanicity here as well. So these are the trends over those 2 years. We also have fidelity and quality. Again, we've got the cars at the top, and then the trends over time for different performance measures. Okay, so, and the other thing to note is that whatever filters you have applied are going to appear here at the top in like a header. So if you were to do a screenshot or something of this dashboard, then you could you would see those filters right there and be clear what it is that's being included in these numbers. Okay, so that is a look at the reports and dashboards. I hope those will be useful to you. Just want to mention as we wrap up here, we're going to be conducting some usability testing sessions. We've done this in the past where we reach out and ask users of our website to help us just by, showing us how you use the website and any areas that might be able to be improved a little bit. So we're going to be recruiting some volunteers for those. We'll be sending out emails asking for volunteers. We'll ask for tier 2s still in January and tier 1s in February after you've completed your data submission for the current period. And if you need any technical assistance, here's our contact information. We do have a couple questions that have come in. Just going to quickly answer those, and then I think we will be good for today. We received a question. Let's see. Hold on. Let's see. And feel free to put your questions in the chat if you have any more questions. Or in the questions box. We do have one question here from somebody related to the Innovations Development tab. This is from a Hubs grantee. This came in. So can you clarify if this should be the cumulative number of teams supported for the Innovation Development tab, or if this is only for the teams supported within the 6 months reporting period? Some of the measures are cumulative and some are for the reporting period. This is a cumulative measure, actually, for that Innovation Development tab. That should be cumulative to date. There is a question of where can we get the Excel sheet template. That is on the Resources tab. You can find it there and download it. That for the upload template and also for the data trackers, the section data tracker is there. In the stakeholder engagement section, do we have to report race and ethnicity? No, you do not. Not that stakeholder engagement section is only just the total number of stakeholders in the different categories: youth, caregivers, youth serving professionals. Don't see any other questions. So glad to hear some of you said this was useful. Hope that it is. So please reach out to us if you have any further questions, and we will end the webinar for today. Thank you very much.